What's going on, guys? Right, teacher in the house, and we are back with the LGL week number 3 Power Rankings, and by we, of course, I mean myself and the commissioner of the league, TheBigGoose. How you doing, man?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. This has been an interesting week, and it's going to be nice looking at it.
Yeah. It was good. It was a good week for one of us as well. But we'll get to that hurdle when we get there. Alright, but as always, guys, the criteria, of course, is going to be win-loss as your main factor, with differential as your tiebreaker. In some instances where people have the exact same score, we'll go over the extra factor which decide the position as we get to them. Alright, so starting order of business. This time round, dropping down to the bottom spot is going to be the Cambridge Wild Cannabis and ODF, who played me this week, which is never an easy challenge. He said it before during last week's Power Rankings that I was pretty confident I knew what he was going to bring. He did try and throw me off. It's interesting to see someone go for more experimental sets. However, in all honesty, he picked himself into a pretty bad matchup. I don't see a world where bringing Hapini was ever the right decision here. Having watched his team builder as well, I think his whole mantra for bringing Hapini was not correct. You're never going to be able to toxic stall a Munchlax. It just rests off it and doesn't care. So I was really surprised not to see the Dubider and the Spritzy come. I thought those were actually really annoying for my team when I was testing against a friend of mine who's a good Little Cut player. I had a nightmare dealing with those two. So I was quite happy for them not to come. He did have some good moments, though. I will be fair to him. He did play Ferroseed very well. I thought playing around the defensive win condition, he did get my Impidimp on the switch, which was me playing badly, to be honest. But there were some pretty good moments for him. The funniest thing to me was how much he struggled to deal with my Hatena. Like, watching through his battle was kind of interesting because he was going from all kinds of different spreads that my Hatena was, because of course Hatena doesn't have a showdown set because nobody uses Hatena in Little Cup right now. So he was having a hard time dealing with it. He threw away his Vulpix and his Swiner relatively cheaply, and ultimately his main offense was gone, which meant that I had a fairly safe way to play to a Grookey win condition at the end.
Yeah, the phrase, there's a phrase, never bring a knife to a gunfight. And when you bring a Hapini to a Little Cup match, you're bringing a knife to a gunfight. Yeah,
no kidding. No kidding. I did like the tenacity, though. I admire someone that tries to throw me off guard, because that's typically a good thing to do against the old grandpa players. I think they know everything. But, like, it's one of those where when you opt for suboptimal sets, you end up putting yourself in a more difficult position because the experienced player is going to have more optimal sets. But in fairness, and to his credit, he does watch all of my videos, including the power ranking ones. He watched all the way through my team builder, so he should have some insight now as to how to unlock this team, because this team is very strong. At its best, if it's piloted correctly, this team's taking names. It's winning a lot of games. There are some picks that are pretty lackluster, which is kind of unfortunate for him, but his better Pokemon can win games by themselves. So I hope to see him pick up some wins. Nobody ever likes to be winless. No one ever wants to see that. But yeah, he will pick up wins, and hopefully he does develop. He is improving. It is always fair to say that. So hopefully he'll pick up a win on the board sooner rather than later, and we'll kickstart his season. But speaking of kickstarting seasons, I think there's someone else that might need to do that, who might actually be co-hosting with me at this point. Literally only he ahead by one differential from last place. I'll let you have this fun, Big Goose, and I'll say what I think afterwards.
Yeah, I'm losing. This was, I will admit, this was a sloppy week. There was some sloppy plays. My team, I think my prep was a little misguided on a couple of things. Bringing sticky webs might have been the wrong idea, and I didn't bring a lot of my more powerful mons. And at the end of the day, I just felt like it was, again, suboptimal sets trying to get the hoodwinking on. I've worked a lot with Chronoculars. I've helped him develop some of his sets. I know him pretty well. So I was trying to be like, aha, I get the sneaky on your set, but it just, I just ended up bringing trash.
Yeah.
Trapinch has been surprisingly disappointing this season. But other than that, yeah, I assume you got some comments?
Yeah, so when I watched the game back, I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, I was trying to justify why you brought some of what you did. And then I was looking at it and I was thinking, okay, well, even if we take away the bad prep, like, where else did it go wrong? And then I see things like the Riolu getting thrown away for basically nothing, and stuff like that. Much like what happened with ODF, like, he was losing Pokemon very cheaply. And ultimately, you're just getting put further and further behind. And at the end of the day, you were put so far behind. Obviously, the Volibee dropping definitely was not ideal either. I think Volibee was probably your better out, but you had no way to get rid of rocks, which was causing you a lot of issues. And it just felt like there was no... It felt like there was no game plan. Like, I was watching it and I was just like, it just felt like a game that was going through the motions and not, like, actually trying to win. Which isn't the case, obviously, but that's the way it came across from watching the replay. And obviously, I know you're a better player than that, and I know that...
I will admit this was a very sleep-deprived match.
Yeah, that doesn't help, for sure. That really doesn't help, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that this is not what we expect from you. So I'm hoping to see more, because you are not this level of a player. There's no two ways about that. I've seen you play better than this, and I expect to see it. It's as simple as that. As brutal as it sounds, it's the honest truth.
Yeah. Hey, stack it on me. I'm a big boy. I got my big boy pants on. I can take it.
But nah, I think honestly, prep mistakes happen to the best of us. But yeah, this was a pretty bad one. No more blues. Oh dear. Alright. Moving on from that, the casual roast of the Big Goose this week. You're welcome, Thief. It's not your turn. Alright. Next up on there is going to be Gandy, coach of the Indian Mafia. I don't actually remember too much of his game. I know he played Chicken this week. Oh, I do actually remember this one. This one I actually threw away his bulkiest mon, like, super early. The Shellos just died for barely any value. And then, of course, that meant that the bulkiest mon that could take on the Zigzagoon from belly drumming and stopping it doing its shenanigans was gone, which meant that the Zigzagoon was just allowed to sweep with belly drumming stream speed. This definitely was a bit of a sucky game. There's one of those that you just kind of like, well, my opponent just swept me, and there's not really much I can do about it. And even the Papa agrees that this was a pretty bad game from Gandy.
The Pupper always knows when there's a bad game, and when you see Zigzagoon, you've got to run the calcs. What can survive the +6 E speed? You got to get, and Shellos, I think, was the only thing he brought that really had the bulk to take it on. Maybe if he'd brought something like Rockruff, because it resists, but Rockruff isn't bulky. His team just wasn't really stacked up well against Belly Drum Zigzag, and throwing away the Shellos was just the nail in the coffin.
Yeah,
which is hilarious because Shellos is, of course, his mascot.
Yeah, it was kind of funny to me. I kind of laughed at myself when I saw it go down pretty early. As bad as it sounds, but yeah, it was a rough matchup for him in general. I don't think this team is super good against Zigzagoon in general, but also against the other threats. Like, the Pumpkaboo is a nightmare to deal with. Like, that thing is a problem. And then things like the Alola Meowth, right? Meowth in general has been very strong in Little Cup for quite a while. You know, Cantonian Meowth has been a nightmare for many seasons, pretty much since Little Cup's inception. So, like, you're starting to see these... Yeah, right? So you're starting to see these sets coming in, and it's not too much of a surprise that it's causing issues. But, yeah, you feel for him. This is a rough matchup and a pretty heavy loss, which is a bit of a demotivator. It's a bit of a tilter, but he'll come back. Just dust yourself off and go on to the next one. That's just
well,
how
hopefully
you play
he doesn't
season.
come back this week.
What? Well,
Because,
actually, no. I
he's
kind of
my
hope
next
he does, so I
match.
can roast you further. Wait, what? No,
I'm coming for you, man.
yeah. Well, you need your first win. You
I'll
need
make
it.
it back.
Luckily, there's 10 games left to play, so you know you got time.
Yeah,
at the
I'll
very
see you in
least.
week 13.
Yeah, you'll lose that game as well. Don't worry about it. All right, moving on from Nerdwood real swiftly. Finally getting his first win of the season is going to be Epsilon. Epsilon, if I remember right,
He beat me.
He beat you. That's exactly how I was thinking. I was
Yes.
just trying to make sure it was you. Totally
Oh
not.
no, he lost this week. He beat me week 2.
Oh no, he lost to is it NewGoodBoy he lost to? Or notshadykid? One of the two. I always
NewGoodBoy picked up his first loss this week.
it's not Shady he played then. Oh, of course it's not Shady. He had the Anna if he
Yes.
didn't bring against me. This was the game that kind of Sandal did way more than it should have done. Like the Stunky and the Fungus died for nothing. Just literally just straight up killed by a Scarf Moxie Earthquake. Which kind of felt a little bit strange to me. I don't quite know why those mons got thrown away. I didn't really like the Hippopotas all that much. I felt like it didn't do anything. It was just sat there, just casually taking damage for no reason. Yes, it did get a little bit of value paralyzing the coughing, but the coughing still lived at the end of the game, and stuff like that. I just didn't see much of a win con, like, looking at this game. And I didn't see, like, what the game plan was trying to dissect this game.
I mean, that's one of the issues I've always seen. His team does lack sort of... If they can push through Tortuga, he is very win-con light. Especially with the Larvesta build he's been bringing, the Rest variant. It seems like it doesn't have the finishing power it needs for a lot of the matchups he's playing.
Yeah, I want to see the Larvesta more offensive. I don't want to see, like, the Rest Talk set leaving it to RNG. Because, like, that gives you, what, Fire Stab, Bug Stab, that's pretty much it. And, you know, Magby came in on that and didn't care. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, a water type of any water type, my freaking Whooper comes in on that.
Your Whooper? Hang on a minute.
Well,
that's on my team.
My mascot Whooper. My mascot Whooper. I'm not attacking you, sir. I'm not in a position to be doing that.
I totally didn't snipe it from him intentionally, but don't tell him. Alright. Dear, but yeah, this was a rough one. Obviously, Epsilon's decent enough, but he kind of needs to be able to play to his win conditions a little better. And maybe, I don't know, there are some potential mons that could be a good win con. Clink, if it can actually get set up enough, could actually do a lot of work, but again, it just gets murdered by a fire type. So
yeah, it's also a Clink.
It is also
always
a Clink,
going to be
hey,
a Clink.
You know, give it a chance. It might kick into gear eventually. The sigh of the awful pun joke. I'm a teacher. What do you expect? Good jokes?
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Alright, moving swiftly on. I'm not going to pretend like that happened. Right, moving swiftly on is going to be Zarin this week. I actually was kind of pleasantly surprised. I wasn't quite sure what to expect from this game. Obviously, going up against Thief was definitely a fun one. It was definitely kind of interesting to see a belly drum Azuriel putting in way more work again than it should have done. Thief somewhat inexplicably threw away 2 mons for no reason, when you could just switch into the horse healer and tanked the Aquajet and just clear smog it twice, which he eventually did. It just took him a few mons to realize it. But of course the problem is Thief had no way back this game after throwing away his mons for no reason, which left Zarin a clear route to win. Although he was a little bit trolling at the end by just not clicking Thunderbolt on this field for some reason. I don't quite know what the reason behind that was. I was trying to fathom it while I was watching it. But at the very least, the Daramaka managed to pick up a hustle break kill. So that was a thing.
I can say Zarin and Chronoculars are the 2 people I play with on our own, work with their teams. This was actually his backup mods. His assembly of Pokemon that he had on the back burner because he didn't think he was going to be using them very much. And he threw it together at me. We played 2 practice matches like the day before it, and it just functioned a lot better than the primary team he had thrown together. And he said, you know what, I'm just going to bring this against Thief and see what happens. And you know what? God bless him. He made it happen.
Yeah, I know, right? Even though his opponent threw pretty hard, it still was kind of funny to see a tiny little Azurill get to +6 and actually knock things out. That was kind of fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. The little Azurill that could.
Yeah, exactly. Alright. And moving on, this week is gonna be the aforementioned Chronoculars. What a turnaround. He seems to like results by differential of 4. He lost 2 4-0 games and now he's won a 4-0 game. Chronoculars, am I sensing a pattern here? Am I sensing that you just literally just want to win or lose 4-0? But nah, like all jokes aside, he took advantage of a sleep-deprived and out-of-form opponent, which is the nicest way to put it. I was going to be a lot meaner, but I've already memed on you enough, so I'm going to try and be a little bit fair. But in fairness, I think he actually played surprisingly well. I wasn't expecting anything from him coming to this game, having seen like the rather difficult start to the season that he had. But it actually turns out that he's actually got some sneaky little tech moves in there. I liked the Recycle Magnemite. I thought that was really, really fun. That definitely proved me wrong that Steel Beam is not worth it. Steel Beam's actually somewhat worth it. I'm actually starting to see the value of it now. Now it's actually been played somewhat better. I did like, obviously, I don't know if the Stone Edge crit mattered from the Kabuto on the Volibee. I didn't actually get a chance to do that calc, but it definitely put in a lot of work. And then, of course, that Mudbray. The reason I love Mudbray so much is it's annoying as hell to deal with if you can't get rid of it. And that was pretty much on show this entire game.
And it's the Magnemite, Steel Beam. I knew you were skeptical on it. It was a personal. Once again, I'm gonna keep lauding my friends here doing some things. Steel Beam was something that I had caught on a couple of laddering videos for Little Cup. So, and I was going through the motions and with Chronoculars, and I suggested, what about Steel Beam to go with it, with your Berry Juice and the Recycle. And not saying anything about Week 4. We are a little bit into Week 4 because somehow a league is ahead of schedule. I don't understand either. But it's just been really strong throughout, and I think we've proven you wrong with your skepticism.
For now, at least. For now. This one was a good example of how it's used very well, but I would argue myself that the first couple of weeks he's tried using it, he hasn't got the best value out of it. So, if it can get the value out of it, then it's worth it. But if you can't, if you don't pick up a kill and you just die to your own Steel Beam for no reason, then what are you expecting me to say? Like, that's a negative trade
Fair enough.
At the end of the day, right? So it's one of those where I think it's highly situational. I think if you can get it in the right situation, it's good. But if you can't, then it's a waste. Like, and then you just run Flash Cannon, right? Which is less damage, yes, but it's way more stable and more consistent. I think that's the kind of position I am on it, having watched it a few times now. But again, maybe I'm wrong. I don't play a lot of Little Cup, I'll be honest. This is my first foray for quite a while. But we'll have to wait and see if we can see the value on it. Alright, but I'm still going to reserve judgment, although I do think a little bit more of it now. Alright, next up is going to be the Tyrant Extraordinaire himself, the guy that likes to throw his mons. Just kidding, right? But Thief is here. Yeah. There's not too much more to add to this, aside from the fact that he threw away mons for no reason, when he had a Horsey quite happily sitting there with Clearsmog. That made no sense to me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to see what he brought. Did I miss something in his team? Because I had something in mind, but I didn't say. Oh yeah, he didn't bring the Abra. That was something I was kind of surprised by.
Yeah,
don't think
I
he's
remember
brought
during the
Abra much at
draft.
all.
Yeah, during the draft, he was really down about picking up Abra, one of the better clean revenge killers. Sorry, in the format. It does a lot of work at picking out threats, and I think it could do a lot of work backing up his Tyrant and helping to pick off some of the things that it doesn't like having to chomp its way through on its own.
It was nice to see the Sizzlipede picking up a kill, though. Like, I've not seen much of Sizzlipede in general. I don't see the Pokemon get a lot of usage. It's nothing like its evolution. But it was kind of interesting to see Sizzlipede pick up a nice lunge kill. Definitely nice to see it. But yeah, this was kind of a very misplayed game in general. I still feel like you should just pick Abra. Like, it's one of the fastest mons in the format. Like, it's actually disgusting how good it is. And with, like, Sucker Punch being, like, the best way to kill it, and it normally runs Focus Sash, it's like, well, this thing's gonna take a kill at the very least. So it just feels weird to me to not see it.
Abra always takes a kill. I've played enough Abra. Unless you're running Focus Sash, Sucker Punch, Diglett, Abra always takes a kill.
Yeah. But even then, it's just like, just burn it or something. Like, find a way to do something else to it. But yeah, it is what it is. But, yeah, I want to see more Abra. I think Abra is way too good on this team. And the fact that it's not coming is probably... It's not the reason why he's losing. But it definitely isn't helping him. Alright. Next up, we're now onto the positive win rates. Now, we are moving into Baconator. Man, what a giant killing this turned out to be. This was always going to be a Clash of Titans up against JPlane, who was in very, very good form going into this week. And we finally got to see what Kufan can actually do when it actually puts glasses on and went to Specsavers and can actually hit its moves. We definitely started to see a lot more presence from this thing. I don't think it even missed a move, if I remember right. I think it actually just hit every move for once. But I did like the Power Whip tech. Caught JPlane off guard. The Power Whip obviously hidden the Slowpoke. Definitely caught it. JPlane unawares. The Onyx play was actually surprisingly good. Onyx got a lot of value out of this game. Way more than I thought it was going to get. The Tentacle did a decent job early, in my opinion. Even though it did go down without a kill, it did wear down 2 mons by itself. So that was kind of nice to see that. Obviously, it is a spinner, so... Would have liked to have seen it kept alive, but there was no hazards put up on Baconator's side unless it spun away, but I can't remember. Because obviously Gossifleur is there as well. But yeah, it was nice to see the Kufan actually do its job for a change. It definitely is always nice to see Kufan doing well. I do have a bit of a soft spot for Kufan. I haven't used it myself, so it's one of those I kind of want it to do well. It's just been sad for Baconator the previous 2 weeks that it hasn't been as good. But this week it was a great one. I will say,
he still hasn't brought that Cosmog. And I'm Baconator. I know you're watching this video. Everyone in the league watches these videos. Look at me. When are we going to see the Cosmog, Baconator?
I'll tell you what, Cosmog. Let's see. When are you playing me, Baconator? I think you're playing me, what? Week 10. You're playing me. I dare you to bring it against me.
You know, you can't just bring it once. It's really an experience. So, and 10 is a great number, but you have to back it up with another number divisible by 5. So clearly you should also bring it round 5 when you play me. It's just that's just clearly how you make everything even.
I know, I'm still waiting for it. I want to see that Cosmog. I just want to see it sit there and do absolutely nothing for the longest possible time.
I want to see it splash. If it doesn't splash, I don't even know why I did this league.
If only we were allowing Z moves. Z splash Cosmog. Let's go. But yeah. But yeah. But I do like the Kufan though. That's all I'm gonna say. The Kufan is the star of the show. Which is unsurprising given it's mascot. Alright, moving on next. Adding 1 differential is going to be notshadykid. Definitely one that I wanted to watch a lot more. I actually wanted to watch this match back again, but this was the Magby and the Sandal just doing way too much. Definitely offering a lot. And something I'm realizing a lot when I'm watching notshadykid's matches is he's got so many threats. Like, it's actually kind of surprising how many threats this team actually has. Oh, yeah. That was kind of exciting to watch. It was nice to see. The Hippopotas did nothing. For some reason, it earthquaked the levitating mon. I don't quite know why that was a thing. But, yeah, he definitely played this pretty well. He clearly knew that Magby was going to be the win con here. Obviously, he played around the Sandal pretty well as well. So there was definitely some good key plays around his good key threats, which is what won in the game. But yeah, he did get lucky. The Sandal getting to +3 made quite a bit of an impact. Definitely is the fairest way to put it. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to watch. And he is a very, very strong player. Like, his only loss is against me. So, can't say fairer than that, to be fair.
Also, he beat me, which is clearly a tall task.
Oh yeah, it's so blimmin' hard to beat you. Like, just looking down the rankings there, like, your win-loss and differential is just massive. Like, I'm joking.
I will say that Why Not has been surprisingly ineffective. Why Not's a pretty a decently popular Pokemon you'll see around on the ladder, and I thought it would do a little bit more work than it's been doing, but we've just had a lot of clean plays around it, and it hasn't been able to do much of anything in its few appearances.
Yeah, it didn't come this week, which I think was the right decision. I don't think Why Not had the best matchup this week in general. But yeah, like, it gets shut down by Taunt because it doesn't have many moves, which forces it into counter Miracle, which just means your opponent can just set up on it. Like, it's fairly simple to play against Why Not. It's just one of those stupidly obnoxious Pokemon that you have to be pretty smart in how you set up around it. But yeah, it's definitely an issue. The other thing that I kind of want to see more of is this Porygon that he was hyping up. Like, this Porygon, I don't feel like has got much value either. Like, I think he's got most value out of his Magby, his Anorith, and his Sandile, which are, like, Magby is a carry in itself. You know, Anorith is a good spinner. But, like, Sandile's been doing work. Like, Sandile's actually a pretty solid mon. But the rest of his team just kind of isn't living up to the bill yet. But who knows? notshadykid's a pretty experienced player, so I definitely expect to see it come up soon. We'll probably see some games where Porygon just gets a sweep off, or something like that. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Alright then. Coming up next is gonna be Pratyush. Actually, for some reason has the wrong scoreline. Let me just fix that real quick. I don't quite know why he has that scoreline, but you know what? Most
professional YouTube channel out there, guys. Most professional PokeTuber out there.
Hell
Can't
yeah,
even
dude.
get a 1.
Hell yeah.
Graphics.
Yeah, and it's also +4. But yeah. Wait, is it +4 or +7? I don't even know. Now I've confused myself. He was +7, he's +4 now. That's what I thought. Because he lost the game. Alright, so we got there eventually. So this game, I think, was the one where he outplayed himself. Where his opponent tried to go for a sleep powder, and he overpredicted. I think he mentioned this in the Discord as well, that he overpredicted, thinking that his opponent would expect an R2 switch, which didn't end up happening, which pretty much put him out of the game. It meant that the Corefish couldn't do anything. I think it was a Corefish that fell asleep. And then it just fell foul of the Caravana sweep, which, you know, is not the first time he's tried a Caravana sweep, not the first time we've seen a Caravana sweep, and probably not the last time we'll see a Caravana sweep. But much like a lot of teams, I think NewGoodBoy's team is very, very threatening. There's a lot of threats to answer, and if you get one thing wrong, then you're kind of thrown back. And that kind of happened with Pratyush this week. I didn't really see too many good opportunities. The Yigglybuff living hits, the Litwick getting 2 kills under Trick Room. It just felt like a lot of pieces fell apart for Pratyush, and there just isn't a way back when you're just falling so far behind in Little Cup.
Yep, it's another case of playing 4D chess when your opponent's playing checkers.
Yeah.
At some point, the mind game need to stop, and you just need to take a look at the raw board state.
Yeah, and just make the safest play instead of making the daftest one. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair to him, if he had pulled off those plays, it would have been sick.
Oh yeah,
and it would have
sure.
made fantastic content, but
not
yeah,
to
it's
be.
another one of it.
Not to be. Alright then, moving on then to number 4 is gonna be the sneaky little Rabombi teacher that's just sneaking up the rankings here. I seem to climb up one spot every week. It definitely seems to be
buzzing up the rankings, if you will.
Yeah, just moseying on up there, you know, just taking it nice and easy, nice and chill, nice and laid back. But yeah, this was a pretty fairly routine game. I think it was nice to be able to bring some of my fringe Pokemon that I've wanted to try and bring to my previous 2 games, but they just didn't quite make the cut. Things like the Impidimp and the Hatenna. Hatenna actually did so much work in that game. I was not expecting too much from Hatenna. I was just like, well, maybe if I get a kill with it, that would be nice. But yeah. 2 kills on Hatenna, Munchlax, and Grookey each. I'll definitely take that. You know, it was a pretty routine game. I knew how to end the game. I didn't waver even though I messed up with my Impidimp switching. Which was not a good play. That's something that would be punished a lot by more experienced players. So, yeah, I have to iron out those mistakes and try and shake off that rust if I want to be more consistent. But at the very least, like, in all 3 of my games, to be fair, like, I've generally played very well. It's just, it's obviously the differential looks worse than it actually shows in the games. But, yeah, composure is one of the key elements to the game for me. And I kept mine pretty easily in this game. So, fingers crossed there's more games like that. Rookity still hasn't come to a game yet. I think it's the only one on my team that hasn't come to a game now. But who knows? Rookity may come eventually. This was the last Pokemon I picked. It wasn't the Pokemon I wanted, but it has a little bit of a niche spot that might actually work. Maybe even against my opponent this week. We'll see.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Even the papa
Even
agrees.
the dog agrees with our
Even the dog agrees. Gotta love it. Right, moving on swiftly then is our last 2-on-1. Is gonna be JPlane. He's been knocked off his top perch by the giant killer that is Baconator. Imagine losing to a Kufant that was historically missing its moves. Feels bad, man. But like, nah. Nah, this was always a tough game.
Yeah,
this was a great game, though.
It's truly an anime arc, if you think about it. Kufant was the scrappy little elephant that couldn't. He always missed his play roughs. But now the big bully in the block comes around, and he's trying to stall him out for turns with his Regenerator Slowpoke. And the Kufant learns a new move, Power Whip, just in the moment. Defeat its truest enemy. It's really inspiring, folks.
What he said.
But
yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate one, but like it doesn't take away from the fact that JPlane is probably one of the strongest players in the league. So he'll bounce back. There's no like doubt in my mind that he'll just bounce back. But yeah, this was a great game to watch.
I don't see him ever dropping out of the top floor.
No, but this was a phenomenal game to watch, though. From an outside perspective, it was a great game to watch. From his perspective, it kind of sucks because he lost. But like, his team is so good. Like, I hate the thought of the fact that I have to play this team still. But it exists, so I just got to deal with it as and when I get to it.
Yeah.
All right then. Now we've got 2 people that are still unbeaten, which. It's annoying, but you know what? It's fine. But in second place this week is going to be NewGoodBoy. NewGoodBoy took a pretty good sweep in job, of course, with that Caravana. I think the combination of Caravana plus Litwick just did so much this game. There was not enough for Produce to be able to deal with it. It was literally a case of throwing the kitchen sink at Produce, and Produce just ended up bending to submission because there was just nothing that he could do against all of these threats coming forward. And then the Igglybuff somehow living a hit. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Igglybuff live a hit in my life, but it did.
Don't underestimate the Igglybuff.
It was the Igglybuff that could.
It's the little Igglybuff that could. And the little Carvana that sweeped.
Exactly.
it's just every time you look at his team, it's just really, really clean. Every time he brings his team, it's got a tight, well-prepped composition. And I think that's really a reflection on the player. He's tight, he preps well, and he wins games.
Exactly. And that's kind of what you want in the long run. You just hope the wheels don't come off the wagon later down the season when you're in a good vein of form. Because that does suck when that happens. But this team is so threatening. Like, it's actually unbelievably threatening, especially from its top end. Like, it's a very top-heavy team, in my opinion, but it's very, very strong. And I was gutted that I lost to it, but, you know what, I lost 1-0, so, you know, I still did better than some of these guys did.
Whoa!
I'm joking, obviously, but yeah. Alright, so moving on, number 1 this week is gonna be chicken. My god, that differential looks awful. Nah, I'm joking. It looks so scary. Plus 13 in 3 games. I run
this league, and this is the first time I've seen this.
Yeah, I know. That is disgustingly strong. It was a very, very strong start.
Oh my god.
It's not exactly like he's had an easy schedule either. Like, that's the other thing. Like, albeit, yeah, alright, epsilon chronoculars are lowered down, but like, you know, it's one of those where you gotta be what's in front of you, and Gandy actually looked pretty decent in the first couple of weeks. So, to come out with a big 5-0 win, which is the biggest result we've had in the league so far, was a pretty big statement of intent. It definitely has to be said. But that is a monstrous differential in 3 games. And he's been pretty composed the whole time, too. Like, it just felt like he knew what he wanted, and he just went and did it. It's almost like he saw the future as to which differential he was going to win by, and he's like, I'm winning by that one. Done. It just feels like everything's clicked into place for him.
Speaking of monstrous, we've said there's a lot of teams that are just pack on the threats. And I wouldn't say that quite about Chicken. Chicken's team is just smooth as butter. It has so many pieces that just work together. It's got that offensive angle. It's got one of the strongest late game sweepers in Zigzagoon. In belly drum extreme speed, arcing everything. It's got Meowth, as we mentioned earlier, and you just look at this team and there's no holes. It's just a brick wall. And you're not gonna, it's gonna be really, really hard to push through that.
Yeah, it's a very, well, it's not as skill intensive as mine, necessarily, but like, it's one of those where it's such a good synergistic team that you're not surprised to see these results, but you hate to see it if you're like having to play against them still, you know what I mean? It's one of those, but obviously, you know, a single misplay can throw you off completely. We haven't really seen that from Chicken yet, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if he does make a glaringly obvious misplay. Like, do we still see the same composure? And that's kind of going to be the next step, really. It's going to be fascinating to watch going forward, because he's got some pretty good games still to go. Just trying to see who he's playing this week. Oh, he's actually played Baconator this week, so that's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Oh, yeah.
Alright.
That's another match that has already been done, I will mention.
Yeah, it's one I haven't watched yet.
Results or anything.
It's one I haven't watched yet. I'm looking forward to watching it. I don't actually know the results.
It's a treat. I'll give you that.
Alright, so we'll have a treat talking about it next week. But either way, guys, that is going to be it for the Week 3 Power Rankings, of course. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you, Big Goose, for joining me as always.
Of course, anytime.
Alright, and with that, guys, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take care.